Good afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 meeting of the Town of Groton Complete Streets Advisory Committee. Members present: Granatowski, Barry, Olson. Chairman Kent notified that he cannot be present, and member Hendrickson is going to be trying to join us via Zoom, but she expects to have spotty reception where she is. So we have a quorum. We have with us today, I believe, Deb Jones from Planning and Development Services, Mr. Hanover from Public Works, and Ms. Jacobson from
FHI Studio.
Thank you. And I believe we have Town Councilor Merritt in the room as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you also have Mark Berry from Parks and Rec.
Thank you so much. Great. Hi, and Mr. Gomes, I believe, from FHI as well. Thank you all for being here with us. All right, so we have a quorum. Communications. Do any of the members have communications that they'd like to share? No? Okay. Chairman Kent sent something out that is our first new business, and I forwarded it to everybody a little bit earlier today, so hopefully you all received that. We can go over it when we get there. Does staff have anything they wish to communicate at this point in the meeting?
Nope.
Nope. Thank you. On to item 3. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes of July 17th, 2024, please?
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Olson, seconded by Barry. Any discussion on the meetings of July 17th? Minutes of July 17th, sorry. Hearing none, I move acceptance of the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. All right, we are on to new business. This is Roman numeral 4 and regarding Route 215 at High Street, Latham, and Fort Rachel Place. And there have been safety issues reported to the chairman by a citizen. And did everybody receive I apologize again for the late sending of it. The email that I forwarded probably, I don't know what time, this afternoon. Okay. If you have access to your mail, I sent it out this afternoon to everybody. And Ms. Nancy Potter contacted Chairman Kent with concerns about speed at that particular intersection. And she has been in contact with the community policing officer from Mystic, Officer Afifi. I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly. And Mr. Hanover has been informed as well. So at this point, I'm going to ask if Mr. Hanover could give us some background or give us an update. If you have any more information, please.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, coincidentally, I did attend the traffic authority meeting, which was about 2 hours ago today. And this item was referred to them by Officer Afifi. And basically, they're going to be doing a traffic study of this area. And then once they get determined that, they're going to look at some recommendations to send to the state DOT, because it is a state road. So DOT has to approve whatever we do there. But I did inform them, and they agreed that the Complete Streets Advisory Committee would be taking a look at this. And then if you have any recommendations, we could pass them along to the traffic authority before they make their recommendations to DOT.
Okay. Do Mr. Olson or Ms. Berry have any questions or comments for Mr. Hanover at this point?
As far as from, I know that this, I'm sympathetic to what the lady is saying in the email. I just don't know from our perspective as the Complete Streets Advisory Committee, is that this is really within our jurisdiction. This really sounds like it's an operational issue with the motorists, which more falls into the traffic authority, which is where I would have recommended it be. And since it's happened, literally 2 hours ago, I agree with that action at this time. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Berry?
Patrice, I had an opportunity to speak with her in person about this. I think that she was interested in first doing an assessment, but also I did mention to her that as part of this group, we would be looking at doing some demonstration projects in the future. And that was something that she was very interested in.
Okay, that's great. I'm pleased that it already has gone to the traffic authority, because that was going to be one of the things we were looking to have happen. I think at this point, I agree with what the other members have said so far, that it is somewhat out of our purview. And I think it is in the correct hands at this point. But I would caution that because it is a state road, we may find change very hard to happen. As we've seen in the past with Groton Long Point Road, we couldn't get change to happen there either. So I hate for anybody to have their hopes buoyed by the fact that the traffic authority is looking at it. But I would like that Member Barry's comments regarding the demonstration project be included in the minutes, please, Mr. Olson. And
Yes.
if that could, then the minutes be sent to either formally through the manager's office to the LTA or informally through Mr. Hanover. I think that would be great at this point. Was there any objection to that from the committee?
None.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Berry. You're muted, Cindy.
I know that we'll be speaking with FHI, and I am curious to learn of their demonstration projects in the past. How have they navigated those projects that they wanted to include in state roads?
Thank you. That's a good question. Mr. Gomes, do you have any response at this point for Ms. Barry?
We have not to date conducted a demonstration project on a state roadway. They've all been on local roadways.
Okay, and that's something I think we touched on at our last meeting as well, the difficulty that we have in even finding a
Yeah.
place to locate a demonstration project, given that our town, the major arteries are state roads. So, okay. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. If there's no other discussion on that particular item, we'll go on to old business. Excuse me. So we are on to old business, complete streets and trails project update from Parks and Rec and FHI Consultants. And the first item listed is a CS&T survey status. So I guess we're going to Mr. Barry at this point.
Oh, the survey status, I don't know, Francisco, can you, I can tell you how many one-page surveys we collected through our efforts down at the beach. Unfortunately, at the concerts, unfortunately, the last 2 weeks were canceled due to the weather, but we had collected 36 one-page surveys at prior concerts, and I don't know how many online completed surveys we are at now.
We are at 566 online. So including the paper versions, that would put us north of 600. However, there's been very little activity in August. Most of that participation came in June and to a lesser extent in July.
And that, could you share with us the percentage or the number of people versus the number of surveys that we got back and how that compares to other communities?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit at our meeting last month. It really does vary quite a bit. We conducted a similar plan for town of West Hartford, which is a larger community. You're north of 40, they're a little more than 60,000 in population. We had participation of about 1,000, just a little more than 1,000 residents in their survey. We did have that survey open for a few months, similar to yours, and we had a a couple of spikes in survey participation early in the process during the initial promotion, and then again when we conducted a public meeting. So in the same fashion, I think we're hopeful that the attention surrounding the public workshop that's scheduled for September will bring new interest in the survey, and we'll get participation from people who have not yet participated.
Thank you. Anyone else have input or questions on this particular agenda item? I would say these go up on the town YouTube page, correct? When the library, if they do their graphics, their chyrons, maybe they could shoot the QR code up on screen. That way, if anybody's interested in taking the survey, they could grab it very easily as they're watching the video. Okay, we are on to town projects, Noank Main Street status. This is item 6.1. Mr. Hanover, please.
Sure. We had the public informational meeting back in July 25th for the presentation of the concept plans for the reconstruction of Main Street. It was held here at the Annex. And we had about 56 attendees from the public. We had, I think, a number of committee members there. So I think those town council representatives there, as well as, you know, a good turnout from the Noack residents. The consultants, you know, gave a presentation of the different options, showing various sidewalk configurations, parking configurations. And then we had an open discussion. I think it was a good discussion, and you know, we got some good, or the consultants got some good input from the public on, you know, areas that they should really be focusing on. And you know, the idea of a new sidewalk along the north side of Main Street from about Carson's store all the way down to the town docks. I don't think there was really any objection to that, which is good. Because that is going to be a new sidewalk. And then there's also one on the south side of Main Street from, Terrace Avenue up to Ward Avenue. And, you know, people had concerns that, you know, directly impacted their properties, but, you know, those will be addressed on an individual basis. But I think overall, I think everybody, you know, was pretty enthusiastic about the project and thought it was well received. I mean, there's a few people that were, you know, against doing anything, of course, but I think overall it was a good meeting. We got a lot of good input from people.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Hanover? No, great. Thank you. On to item 2, status of the road safety audit requested for Route 1. Is this Mr. Hanover as well? You get everything today. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess so. As I think I said at a previous meeting, this road safety audit, it does have to be applied to DOT through the traffic authority. They have to be the official body that requests this. I did have this as an agenda item on the meeting that we just had that I spoke of, and they did approve for me to fill out. It's an online form to fill it out. I'm in the process of doing that, should be complete fairly soon, and getting that up to DOT to see that, you know, if they'll do that road safety audit from Route 1 all the way from Ring Drive, you know, the entrance to Sutton Park and the schools, all the way up to Tollgate Road, which is Route 1A and actually part of Route 12. So the traffic authority did approve that today.
All right. Any questions on that particular item? I'm eager to hear about the next item, the bike racks at Town Hall and Annex. So is that Mr. Hanover or Mr. Barry?
That would be Mr. Barry.
That'd be Mr.
Mr.
Hanover.
Barry.
Just this week, we installed 2 bike racks up at the Annex, and I'm pleased to report that on my way in, there was a bike. Although somebody was trying to steal it off of the bike rack. I don't know whose bike it was, but yes, there are 2 bike racks at the Annex. And we have identified a location at Town Hall. We're gonna have to wait a little bit. The best spot to put it is where the ballot box is, and which will require moving the ballot box. There is a camera that's focused on the ballot box. They are upgrading the camera system within Town Hall, which would include the new camera outside. And until that new camera gets installed, moving the ballot box is not an option. So we're waiting on the moving of the ballot box so that we can put in the bike rack. So I'm not really sure what the timeline is for that. I suspect, I don't know. So I'm not even gonna suspect.
Okay, well, that's good news about the annex, and yes, do not move the ballot box at this point in time, and keep the cameras on the ballot box.
Yes.
But yeah, that's good to hear that we're making progress on that. And I assume that the bike that was about to be stolen was one of our members, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It wasn't mine, so I don't really care.
I appreciate all that.
All right, great. Anything else on the bike racks?
No, not at this time.
Okay. And then we have just other projects. Is there anything else that you two gentlemen wanted to discuss, or should we throw it to FHI to see if they wanted to add anything? I'm not sure if there
Yeah.
was intent here.
Sorry, Patrice or Mayor Grantowski, I'm not sure which is appropriate.
Bruce, yes.
Okay, yeah, so FHI Studio included in the packet was their potential demonstration projects. And they're on this call to kind of go over those various projects with us, just to get some feedback from the Complete Streets Committee. And they made the same presentation at the Traffic Authority a couple of hours ago, and the Traffic Authority was enthusiastic about all of these potential projects.
Okay, great. So we're gonna throw it over to Ms. Jacobson or Mr. Gomes. And I assume one of you two can share your screen to put the graphics up for the public who might be watching.
Yes, I will do exactly that right now.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so first, let me remind everyone that we will be conducting a workshop in support of this plan on September 18th. And before I jumped into the demonstration projects, I did want to review the agenda of that workshop with all of you so that you're familiar with what it is that we'll be trying to accomplish within those 2 hours. We will provide those attending with an introduction to both the planning team and the planning process and the purpose of the plan. We'll provide a 15-minute review of existing conditions, comprising of some of the mapping that we've conducted and our findings regarding the bicycle and pedestrian and trails network. We will provide a very high-level overview of the survey results to date and encourage participation in the survey. We will then provide a primer on the recommended bicycle and pedestrian facility types, whether it be bike lanes, shared use paths, side paths, etc. We will then provide an overview of the recommended town-wide network, both bicycle and pedestrian. We're currently actively working on mapping gaps in the pedestrian network. We've already completed that work for the bike network. And then we're going to use a bulk of that meeting because it is a workshop. So we'll use over an hour of that for breakout sessions. And within those sessions, we'll try to break into groups of about 10 people or fewer, depending on attendance. We'll have maps on tables and we'll ask people to take a look at our recommended network and the network that we've mapped, discuss areas where they feel there's a greater need for improvements, discuss specifics concerning concerns about traffic and riding bikes and walking. And so we have that a bunch of prompt questions and visuals to guide them through that process. We will then introduce to them the demonstration projects that I will now in a moment review with you, so that they understand that scope of the project, and to potentially invite their participation in that process as well. And then we'll take a few minutes to conclude the meeting. So that said, let me jump ahead, and this is the exact presentation that we've been building for that workshop. And you've seen most of this content, so we don't necessarily need to review that with you. So let me jump to the demonstration projects. We had briefly introduced these concepts and locations at our meeting last month. We have since refined these concepts and have developed them. And we have 6 candidates now. And these really range from a demonstration project to what would actually be near-term implementation of the plan. So the first 3 items of bold are what we consider true or could potentially be initial demonstration projects, and items 4 through 6 potentially could be done at a later date. So let me walk through what those items are. We were asked to consider doing a traffic garden, and we think this is probably where you should start. This could be a really fun project, could have real benefit to children. It provides an instructional benefit, could encourage play, and safe bicycling, development of bicycling skills to improve bicycle safety in youth. And so one of our tasks was to identify some potential locations. And we think the former Claude Chester School is a great candidate. We presented one of the locations that we initially identified to the traffic authority a couple of hours ago. They had concerns because of the active use of that location. And let me show you what I'm talking about. That would be the big circular turnaround at the end of the parking lot. And as we understand it, it's actively used for not only turning around, but for parking. People park in it. Now, we don't have concerns about our ability to actually close it off to paint things, or to close it off on a temporary basis for actual skills training. That's not the issue. The issue would be installing something that encourages kids to use it without a formal class type activity, on their own, to use it and play while mixing with automobile traffic. That's not a good formula. And so they brought that concern to us. We agreed that's a concern. Our initial thought process was that this turnaround could potentially just be closed while for the duration of the traffic garden being in place. I didn't seem like there was support for that given the usage. So we came up with an alternative location that's not far away. It's right on the site. There is a paved playground adjacent to a play structure. That's the only thing it has on it is some a couple old little 4 square paint markings. And so our initial concept to do the traffic circle, we revised that to fit in this paved playground area where no vehicles are allowed. And we think we could still make a pretty functional area that's fun for kids, and then allows for some instruction as well. So the goal of the traffic garden is to teach kids in a safe environment how to follow the basic rules of the road, staying on the right, how to pass, how to come to a stop, how to signal, how to navigate a small roundabout, an all-way stop. The great thing about this project is that we could do this in the near term. The traffic authority had no concerns about it. It's really outside of their purview. They're not really concerned about anything off of a road. It obviously still requires coordination with DPW and whoever's responsible for maintaining this property. But this is something we could paint in an afternoon, or a Saturday morning with a handful of volunteers. And because it's not exposed to traffic, that paint, without using any particularly special paint, just an exterior grade latex, would be there for a couple of years easily. So this would be a fun project, and it's our top candidate for a demonstration project. We had also discussed potentially conducting that demonstration project in September around the same time as the workshop, early enough in the season that weather is less of an issue and people could benefit from using it before it gets cold. So that being said, let me pause here. And does anyone have any thoughts about this or questions?
Excuse me, I just wanted to jump in and let you know that member Hendrickson has been with us since the beginning of the meeting via Zoom. So Mr. Olson, if you could just include her as present for the membership. Thank you, Mr. Gomes. This looks wonderful. I'll yield the floor back.
Okay, thank you. Very good. All right, now the other concepts are on street, and I'll move through these quickly. You have the packet, so you could take your time to study them. So they are focused on either a combination of traffic calming, pedestrian improvements, and bicycle facility enhancements or bicycle facilities. The first concept would be a traffic calming and pedestrian enhancement concept. It's located on Depot Road. We have a bike concept along Depot Road as well. It's at the intersection of Providence Court and Fitch Avenue, where we have an all-way stop. But it's a fairly wide open intersection, and it really doesn't require this size to accommodate the traffic that it does have or the turning movements. So the concept would be to choke it down by providing some bump outs. Those would be a combination of paint and plastic traffic delineator posts, and there's an image of one on the right side of the screen here. We've conducted multiple demonstration projects of this nature, and they've worked out really well. In so doing, we'd also paint crosswalks between the bump outs. And so the advantage here is it slows turning movements and shortens the crossing distance for pedestrians. So it has a traffic calming and pedestrian benefit altogether. Okay, any questions on or comments on that?
This is Tom Olson. I do have a question in regard.
Sure.
Currently, there doesn't appear to be any crosswalks in there. Is
No.
that indicative that there's really there's sufficient sidewalks, and is it really being used as in a pedestrian facility today? Because looking at this, I really don't see sidewalks in the diagrams that I have in front of me here, but.
Yeah, there are sidewalks on all four corners.
Okay.
I do believe at least a couple of those corners are lacking curb ramps. So there's certainly some ADA issues. I haven't physically been out in the site, so that's just from aerial photographs and street view, our assessment. The area, it's a residential area, so it's definitely used by pedestrians. The reason why there aren't marked crosswalks now is because the traffic volumes are relatively low and it is stop controlled. So by MUTCD standards, and that's the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, you really aren't required to provide a crosswalk marking in this condition. However, it would be good enhancement. You're certainly not prohibited from doing so. And if it's our intention to both support pedestrian movement, increase pedestrian safety, and do some traffic calming, marked crosswalks would be a good idea alongside these bump out improvements.
And Francisco, this is meant to be an example for potentially other locations.
That's exactly right. These demonstration projects are really supposed to be a proof of concept to show that you can, in this example, you can take an intersection that's a little oversized for the conditions, and you could effectively shrink it, and that will be effective in calming traffic, slowing vehicle speeds. And over the long term, if there's a crash history associated with that intersection, you can study the impact of those improvements over the long term. There's nothing we'd be able to discern in the short term. But otherwise, you know, we'd put it up and you'd put a measure like this in place for several months, a good part of a season. Typically, you take the post out before winter, before they get banged up by snow plows. And basically you just see how things work. And if the neighbors are telling you, hey, I really like this, it seems to have calmed traffic down, then you can consider more permanent measures. And the town could also opt to collect some speed data here as well to see if there's an impact on speeds or on compliance with the stop signs.
This is Tom Olson, just to follow up on my question.
Yeah.
This on Depot Road this is an area that's supposed to be ultimately marked for bikeway or
For Sharrows, right?
for sure, right?
Yes.
Would that be
Correct.
included in this project or
Well,
not?
let's move right on to that. You have a very, very timely question. So I'm going to skip Crystal Lake Road. We'll come back to that. Let's stay on Depot Road. The roadway is sufficiently wide to accommodate bikes. However, because it is a residential road with a lot of residences, there is an on-street parking demand. So to provide bike lanes on this road would really prohibit on-street parking. And I can tell you from experience, that's a very unpopular thing with neighbors, particularly when you have people with houses that are close to the street and they have really small and shallow driveways, and they really rely on on-street parking for guests and deliveries and that sort of thing. The traffic conditions here are relatively low, so it's actually a very good candidate for a shared roadway, which means sharrow pavement markings and a limited amount of signage because the conditions are already favorable to bicycling. Right. The benefit of this segment is that it connects Route 1 down to the trolley trail, to the boardwalk as well. And it goes through a residential neighborhood, connects to the community center, the schools. So it's an ideal place to start building out your network. And these are very low cost measures. You don't have to move curbs. You don't have to modify traffic signals. So it's a low cost measure that can be conducted in a short term. So here we're actually talking about a little more than a demonstration project. There's really, we know that this will work. It'll be effective. It won't be detrimental to traffic operations. So there's not really a need to demonstrate its success before doing more permanent measures. And the permanent measures are already very low cost. We're talking about a couple signs and some pavement markings. So this is really more of a short-term, near-term implementation of the plan.
Excuse me for interrupting. I see member Barry, Ms. Barry has her hand up.
Sure.
I just want to say that I really like the idea of this. We ride our bikes a lot from our home to Bluff Point or the trolley trail, often with our grandchildren between us. And it never fails that I see people roll through that stop. So even though, you know, there is some traffic calming measures, I do see a lot of people rolling right through, looking left and right maybe, but rolling through. And it doesn't necessarily affect me because I'm going with the flow of traffic, but I could see that it potentially could be a safety issue. So I'd be very curious to see what shrinking that area can do.
Thank you. And member Hendrickson, Ms. Hendrickson has a question as well. Lori, go ahead.
I apologize. It's a little weird. Where it's and major discussion.
We can't get your question because it's breaking up. Do you want to type it into the chat? Can you see the chat? Is there a chat? There used to be. Deb, is there a chat still?
No, there's not.
Okay. Yeah, you're breaking up, Lori. The signal's not great. I apologize. If you want to try one more time, go ahead. I think we lost her. I'll let her come back in whenever her signal pops again. But I just wanted to say, I'm curious as to why, the order of the potential demonstration projects that you showed at an earlier slide shows the traffic garden, the bump out crosswalks, bike lanes on Crystal Lake, and then Depot Road was bumped down to was listed at number 4. Personally, I would much prefer to see the project you're looking at right now on screen, the shared roadway Depot Road, bumped into the top 3, along with that intersection and the traffic
Mhm.
guard, rather than the Crystal Lake Road. That's my one member's opinion. I don't know if the other members have any thoughts on that as well, but if this committee has any say, that would be my preference, would be to have this shared roadway increased in importance in the list.
Okay. Yeah, we're certainly amenable to that. I think our original intention was just to spread things out geographically. The benefit, though, of focusing on this area is we have a number of measures that are focused in one area. So there's a greater benefit from doing a combination of those in the near term.
I just want to jump in. Ms. Hendrickson said that she just wanted to remind and make sure that we are aware that Depot Road has already been approved for a bike lane with funding already, but no bids. So hopefully that's that captures the essence of what Lori was saying.
And
I think, well, yeah, Mark, go ahead.
sorry, I do have an update to the no bids. We have gone out to bid twice, but we know for a fact that we will have a bidder this third time around. And Lori was correct. Depot Road and Industrial Drive, there's already projects planned for those particular roads, and
Okay.
through a transportation alternative grant that we got a number of years ago. And that work is actually going to continue out onto Route 1 and then onto South Road and all the way out to Thomas Road. So those are projects that are in the pipeline.
So then, Mr. Barry, would this be frivolous to include then the shared roadway Depot Road, given that there's already an RFP out for work to be done on Depot? Is that what you're saying?
It would be a duplication. I wouldn't say
Okay.
frivolous. It would be a duplication.
My
Yeah.
apologies. Okay, understood.
Yeah, I'll coordinate more with Mark on that because, these short-term measures are intended really to set you up for long-term improvements. And so we don't want to do a concept plan for and implement share rows on this roadway if the groundwork has already been done for bike lanes, by example. Bike lanes are certainly a very good facility type for this type of roadway as well. It could be either. Our recommendation for shared roadway was as a near-term measure because it would require less planning and coordination with property owners.
I just wanted to jump in and see if Member Barry's thoughts on this, given that this demonstration project is there, but the other one is there. What are you thinking, since you use this road frequently?
I don't really know the timing of the other grant. I think that it would be interesting to see what is planned for the construction of the bike lanes. I've seen some really interesting bike lanes that actually go into those bump outs as kind of a place to wait, to cross and to kind of mix with pedestrians. So I think that there's a lot of innovative things that can be done. I'm just not sure of the timing and the scope of the construction.
So would you like to see the demonstration project go ahead while the other stuff is out to bid, or do you think it should be put on hold?
Personally, I think if we can get some mileage out of it in terms of making it more of a community awareness campaign, like Francisco is talking about, that other places in the community can see this as an opportunity to learn more about complete streets and to learn what's possible in various neighborhoods for the future. I think that, you know, that's kind of it. I think its intent, if I'm understanding the process correctly, that it could be a valuable exercise.
Thank you. Good point. Okay. Any other discussion on this particular item? And Lori's back with us, so that's good. All right, Mr. Gomes, do you have more to go through?
Yeah, I'd like to very quickly review Industrial Drive, now understanding that there's a, you know, obviously a larger project being planned. But Industrial Drive is a very important link in this local network, providing connection to the trolley between the Paquonic River Boardwalk and the trolley trail and to Depot Road. And it's an ideal candidate for bike lanes. There are very few residences located on Industrial Drive. Therefore, that on-street parking demand is not there. And it's just wide enough at 30 feet to accommodate 2 10-foot traffic lanes and 2 5-foot wide bike lanes. So it's really an ideal candidate, and it gets you that connection between the trolley trail and Depot Road. So as with our discussion on Depot Road, I'll need to do a little more coordination with Mark to try to figure out what the implications of that project going out to bid are. Obviously, if it's something that might not happen for a couple of years, then more short-term measures might be more viable. But if it's a project that's going to happen soon, we don't want to redo any work.
This is Tom Olson here, just commenting on the Industrial Drive. Mr. Hanover, you had a CIP project in this current year's budget that was rejected by the town council, was reinstated, if I remember, by the RTM for repaving this area because of the poor condition of the road.
Mhm.
What's the update as far as is this going to be a full repave, or is this going to just be repairs? And how would this this proposal here be coordinated with the actions for the public works?
Yeah, that'll be a full reclamation, reclaiming and repaving project for the full length of the road. We did get the funding for it ultimately, and right now we're probably looking at spring or summer of next year to do something out there. So if we could get a demonstration project this fall, we could do that, or we could wait till after we do the paving.
You
Thank
would,
you.
that's very helpful information. Thank you for bringing that up. And you would, in fact, not want to touch this until you do repave it. And that's a perfect opportunity to actually build this design into the road's restoration. Put the center line in exactly the right place, and those shoulder stripes in the right place, and then along with the signage and the bike lane symbols. So it's a very fortunate schedule that we're on. All right. I want to talk about Bindloss Road very quickly. That's a fairly wide open T intersection. It's a skewed intersection. There are no sidewalks up here, but it's a nice road, gets some bike traffic and a few pedestrians that do walk. The intersection is oversized for the traffic, the nature of the traffic that it has, and the turning movements required. And we would recommend choking it down with some bump outs. Once again, through the use of traffic delineator post and edge striping. We conducted a very similar project on a roadway that had a very similar geometry in Simsbury, Connecticut. We were effective in reducing traffic speeds, turning movement speeds by over 5 miles per hour. And we left it in place for a few months, and the town subsequently made permanent improvements to the location. So we think a project like this it makes a lot of sense here. It's really a traffic calming project because the pedestrian activity is relatively low. It's really geared to calming traffic for any potential pedestrian or bike users, as well as improving traffic safety as a whole. very low cost measure. This is definitely an example of a demonstration project. Unlike Depot Road or Industrial Drive, which I really see as more short-term permanent measures.
Francisco, I do ride on this road every weekend. And there are a lot of bikers and there's a lot of walkers and there's a lot of runners that
Okay.
use this road on the weekends.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I actually think in this aerial image, we're actually capturing two sets of bicyclists riding side by side. You
Yeah.
can see it in the shadows here. So, yes. Thank you,
Can I
Mark.
just interrupt with a process question, please?
Sure.
Your chart shows 6 projects. 3 of them are in bold, numbered 1, 2, and 3. Can you refresh my memory, please, as to how many of these are included in your work contract with the town, or are they all included, or 3 of them, or just refresh my memory on the execution of this?
I believe we are scoped to do 6. It may be 5. It's 5 or 6 conceptual designs for demonstration projects, which could include these near-term projects such as Depot Road. So those wouldn't be construction drawings per se, and these types of improvements don't necessarily require construction drawings, but they would provide dimensions, everything you need to execute this in the field.
So the town will have 5 or 6 plans for the items that we are looking at right now.
Correct.
Okay, so then it's just a matter of the town coming up with the money to implement the plans,
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
where we get the council on board, right, Councilor Merritt?
I'd have to look all of this over again. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Gomes, if I may.
I'm sorry, I couldn't, is Councilor Merritt speaking?
He is. He's got a couple of questions for Mr. Gomes.
Mr. Gomes, are you finished with your presentation, sir, that we can open it for the councilor?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to call attention to Crystal Road very quickly. Crystal Lake Road would be an important connection in our network. It would be, these improvements would be a bit in isolation because the networks surrounding it that it's intended to serve is not yet in place. However, it's a very short gap. It's only a quarter mile. So if you're looking for projects, you can check off the list. It's a great opportunity to provide bike lanes. It has adequate road width. It's really a matter of striping and signage and pavement marking. So that was the final of the 6.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Can someone help Councilor Merritt? Maybe you could just repeat his question that he had.
He has a microphone now.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can,
Yes.
Councilor.
Yes, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Gomes, referring back to Depot Road.
Sure.
Did you also consider traffic in regards to Bluff Point State Park and Amtrak? I understand Amtrak could be increasing their operations in the next few months, and Bluff Point does have a lot of traffic.
Right.
Was that
And you're referring to the Amtrak maintenance facility?
correct?
Yeah. So we took a look at the traffic volumes on this roadway based upon existing counts conducted by DOT. I think they're as recent as a year or 2 years ago. And those volumes were well within range for either a shared roadway or a bike lane. So even if Amtrak added 100 more trips a day with 50 more employees driving to and from work, it really wouldn't move the needle on the overall traffic volumes. We're in the thousands, but well within the range of what's acceptable for either a shared roadway or bike lanes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Well, this has been enlightening. I appreciate it. Do any of the members have questions, final questions for Mr. Gomes or Ms. Jacobson?
I guess this is Tom Olson again. As far as when we the products that's going to be delivered to Mr. Barry, and then he would be coordinating this with, I assume, with Public Works. This would ultimately end up as a CIP, or do you have discretionary funds already for this? I guess that from the next, we get, if we go currently with this is the 6 plans that would be developed, as far as from the execution perspective, are these the kind of things within the general scope that you'd be looking for? I guess from a town perspective, as far as we're going to do execution here, has that been coordinated already, or is that still to be coordinated in the future based on now these products are coming out as? I guess I'm just a little confused.
So those fundings are
Chicken and
to
egg
be,
process.
that's a great question. The funding for these measures is to be identified. That being said, the traffic garden, we're talking about maybe $1,000 worth of paint. And paint rollers and that sort of thing. All right, so we do see that, and we are hopeful that we could find the funds for that. We don't have budget for materials. We're just doing the design, and we would be assisting with the implementation of that. But I think we're hopeful that the town could find $1,000 to buy some paint and materials to support that installment in the near term.
Yeah, and I think, Tom, once we have figures for the different projects, then it's a discussion whether those projects could be absorbed in the operating budget or whether it would require a CIP.
Okay.
Yeah, and we don't have those numbers yet, but Francisco said that that's going to be part of what they're putting together is a budget for those different projects.
Correct.
Yeah, based on what I'm saying, these are very low cost projects. They're not CIP projects.
Okay.
And I think almost all of them could be done, with operating money.
Okay.
That's
Appreciate that.
what I was thinking as well. They don't seem like worthy of a CIP as far as the actual cost. And plus, if you were doing it as a CIP, you're waiting a while, or you're looking for a supplemental appropriation, which, Member Barry had her hand up, I believe.
Thank you. I'm just wondering from Mark if there has been any discussion about coordinated or planned programming for the traffic garden. What would that look like? How often would it be used? Who would be using it? That kind of thing.
Yes, we're not there yet. My initial thoughts were Bike Groton is an advocacy group, and we could utilize their resources. And I know in other communities, the police department is also involved with bike safety. And I think there's a couple of other organizations that support bike safety that we might be able to look to them to provide some programming. But yeah, we have not worked out the details of this. This is still in the conceptual stage, but I'm pretty sure that we could come up with programming efforts to, direct kids towards using the traffic garden.
Okay, I didn't know if it would be good to get the schools involved. Perhaps there's already an elementary school that has space for a traffic garden at their school, a place where kids are coming to anyway for other reasons, and parents would be more knowledgeable or aware that it exists.
Sure, there would be a robust community engagement process to get, as many volunteers as we could to support this, and then also to utilize it once it's been built.
I do like your idea of the schools, but what's nice about this is that once FHI designs this for us, we can use them as a model. And perhaps if the Board of Ed is interested, we could locate one at the various elementary schools. So it's a great idea, Member Barry. Thank you. Okay, anybody else have questions? We're coming up on 4:30, which is our usual close time. So if there's anything else you'd like to add or ask at this point. Well, thank you, Mr. Gomes and Ms. Jacobson. We appreciate your being here. This was very informative, and I think it's very good for the public to see your work you've been doing and what we're hoping to accomplish. So thank you very much. And if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Moved by Olson. Is there a second? I will second that. Oh, Counselor Bear or Member Barry will second that. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are adjourned at 4:25. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it and have a good day, everybody. Take care.
You know,
Thank you,
have a
everyone.
great day. Thank you, Francisco.
Thank you.
It was great.